The forest was alive with sound. Birds called from high branches. Insects hummed in the heavy air, and the leaves whispered as the wind moved through them. Ryan pushed through the thick green wall with slow steps, his boots sinking into the damp ground. Sweat ran down his face, but his eyes were fixed forward. He was not here for comfort. He was here for discovery. Behind him walked Mira, a quiet woman who carried the maps and records of old ruins. She kept checking her notebook, making sure their path was correct. Beside her was Thomas, strong and steady, carrying much of the equipment. 2 more men followed, their eyes sharp and their hands ready to clear the path with blades. Together they had been walking for days, guided by stories told in small villages near the forest edge. The stories spoke of an old Mayan temple, hidden deep inside, a place where the moon touched the earth in silver light. The deeper they went, the heavier the air became. Vines hung like ropes, roots twisted across the ground, and every step seemed like a battle against the jungle. Yet Ryan's spirit did not weaken. He had studied ancient cultures for years, and now he felt he was close to something greater than simple stone ruins. He had a sense, almost like a voice inside, telling him that the legends were true. At last, near the slope of a hill, they found something that was not nature. A line of stone showed under the roots of an old tree. Moss covered it, but the edges were too sharp to be natural. Ryan bent down, brushed away the moss, and revealed a carving. The stone carried marks of the Mayan people, yet it glowed faintly even under the shade of the forest. Mira knelt beside him. Her eyes widened. "This is not just old carving," she whispered. The lines seemed to shine with a silver color, a strange glow that did not belong to the jungle. Ryan nodded. His heart beat faster. "This is what we came for," he said. The team cleared the vines, pushed away the soil, and revealed more of the stone. What stood before them now was not just a rock, but the corner of a great stair. Each step was wide, leading upward into a hill that seemed to be part of the forest itself. But this was not a hill. It was a temple covered by time and nature. Thomas stood tall, looking up at the hidden structure. "It is larger than I thought," he said. The group worked until evening, removing roots and soil to uncover more. The temple rose above them, proud even in its broken state. Cracks ran along its walls, trees grew through its stones, yet its presence was powerful. When the sun began to fall, its last light touched the carvings and the silver marks glowed brighter. That night they set up camp near the base of the temple. The fire cracked, pushing back the darkness, while strange calls echoed from the forest. Mira studied the carvings by torchlight. She traced her fingers over the golden shapes set into the stone, relics shaped like stars and circles. "The Mayans must have placed these here for a reason," she said softly. "But how did they make them shine like this?" Ryan stared at the temple. The glow was not from gold alone. It came from something deeper, something hidden. "It is as if the temple is alive," he said. "As if it waits for the right time or the right people." The others listened in silence. Even the forest seemed to quiet for a moment, as if it too respected the ancient stone. When the moon rose high, its silver light fell directly onto the top of the temple. To their eyes, the structure seemed to awaken. The glowing lines spread across the carvings, running like streams of light down the steps. The golden relics caught the shine, reflecting it until the temple stood bathed in silver and gold. The explorers stood together, speechless. They had seen many ruins before, but nothing like this. The temple did not seem dead. It seemed to breathe, as if it had waited centuries for this moment. Ryan's voice broke the silence. "This is no ordinary place. This is not only Mayan work. There is more here than history. There is a secret that has been waiting for us." The group looked at him with a mix of fear and wonder. In that moment, they understood that their journey was no longer just about finding old stones. They had uncovered something far greater. The Mayan moon temple was not a forgotten ruin. It was a doorway, and it was calling to them. Word count. 115 morning came slowly in the jungle. A thin mist curled between the trees, and drops of water clung to every leaf. The explorers woke to the sound of birds filling the air with endless calls. Ryan rose first, his eyes fixed on the temple steps that still carried faint silver lines even in daylight. The sight gave him energy, as if the temple itself whispered to him that they were only at the beginning of discovery. Mira joined him, notebook in hand. She had spent half the night drawing the symbols they had found. Her eyes were tired, but her voice was steady. "These carvings are not only decoration," she said. "They tell stories. But the style is strange. It is Mayan, yet also not. It feels as if something else guided their hands. Ryan looked at the pages of her notes. Circles, stars, and figures filled the sketches. Some shapes resembled men with wings of light. Others looked like strange tools or vessels. These are not myths alone, he said. The Mayans were telling what they saw. They must have met someone who gave them knowledge far beyond their time. The others joined them after breakfast. Thomas carried a rope, ready to climb deeper into the temple while the two men prepared torches and tools. Together they stepped onto the ancient stairway. Every stone seemed heavy with history. Some cracked under their weight, but the temple stood strong as if determined not to fall even after so many centuries. They reached a great doorway half covered in vines. After cutting through the green wall, they entered the shadow of the temple. The air inside was cool, carrying the smell of stone and dust. At first, their torches revealed only empty walls, but soon they saw the truth. Carvings stretched across every surface, covering the chamber from floor to ceiling. The explorers moved slowly, eyes wide. Golden relics were set into the walls, shining like small suns even in the dim light. The shapes were not random. Some were circles cut with exact precision. Others were lines crossing like paths on a map. Mira stepped closer to one relic shaped like a crescent. "This is not simple craft," she said. "It is made with skill that should not have been possible in that age." Ryan touched the stone beside it. The Mayans had knowledge of stars and seasons, but this is different. This is exact, like the work of a mind that understood more than Earth alone. As they explored further, they found carvings of men standing before beings taller than themselves. The tall figures were drawn with shining halos, their arms stretched toward the sky. In their hands they carried objects that looked like rods of light. Around them were stars drawn with lines connecting them, forming constellations no one in the group recognized. Thomas stared at one wall. "If this is true, then the Mayans were visited," he said slowly. "Not by gods, but by something from the sky. Maybe travelers, maybe teachers." The chamber grew quiet. The idea was heavy, almost too large for the human mind. Yet the evidence stood in stone before them. Mira's voice broke the silence. "Look at this part," she said, pointing at a series of carvings. They showed a man standing on a mountain, holding a golden disc above his head. From the sky, beams of silver light touched the disc, and the people around him bowed in respect. This must be the leader of the temple. He held the relics as a sign of trust from those who came. Ryan's heart raced. He felt the story was alive in the walls, waiting to be understood. "The Mayans were chosen," he whispered. "Chosen to keep the memory of a meeting between Earth and the stars." Deeper inside, they found a long hall with a ceiling shaped like the night sky. Tiny golden points were set in the stone, forming patterns of stars. When their torches flickered across it, the ceiling seemed alive, a map of the heavens frozen in time. But some of the constellations were not the ones known to humans today. They were unfamiliar, as if drawn from another sky. One of the men asked, "Why would they carve stars no one here could see?" Ryan answered with calm certainty. "Because they were shown." The visitors must have shared their maps, their knowledge of faraway worlds. The Mayans did not imagine this. They recorded what was given. The explorers stood together in awe. They were no longer only historians or seekers of treasure. They were witnesses to a truth that connected the past with something much greater. The temple was not simply a place of worship. It was a record, a library written in stone and gold, holding the memory of contact between two worlds. As they prepared to leave the hall, Mira stopped and turned back. Her torchlight caught one more carving, hidden low near the floor. It showed a path of stars leading to a circle marked with lines like rays of light. She bent down, tracing it with her finger. "This looks like a journey," she said. "A road through the sky." Ryan crouched beside her. "A map," he said. His voice shook with excitement. The Mayans were left with more than stories. They were left with directions. The group left the chamber in silence, each lost in thought. The jungle sounds greeted them again, but now they seemed distant. The temple had changed everything. It had spoken through stone and gold, telling them that humanity's history was larger than anyone believed. And somewhere within its hidden heart, more secrets waited. The jungle outside was alive with sunlight. But inside the temple, the explorers walked in shadow. Their torches threw dancing light across the walls, and every step echoed like a voice from the past. Ryan led the group, his eyes sharp and his heart full of restless energy. The carvings they had seen told them of visitors from the sky, But he felt that deeper inside the temple lay something more. Something that would explain the silver glow they had witnessed on the first night. The hallway narrowed as they moved forward. The air grew cooler, and the smell of damp stone filled their lungs. The sound of dripping water echoed through the chamber ahead. Soon the passage opened into a wide circular room, far larger than any they had seen before. The explorers stopped at its edge, staring in silence. The walls of the chamber were smooth, almost polished, unlike the rough carvings of the outer halls. Across them ran lines of silver, thin as threads weaving into patterns that stretched from floor to ceiling. Even without moonlight, the lines gave off a faint glow, soft but steady, like the quiet shine of stars in a clear night sky. Mira lifted her torch higher, her face pale with awe. "This is not natural," she said softly. "No tool from their time could have cut stone like this. And these lines, what are they made of?" Ryan stepped closer, his fingers brushing over the silver threads. They were not paint, nor metal pressed into cracks. They were part of the stone itself, as if the temple had been built with them already inside. He felt a strange warmth under his hand, almost like a pulse. "It is alive," he whispered. The group moved slowly around the chamber. In the center stood a raised platform, wide and flat, surrounded by steps. On its surface lay a large disk of stone carved with circles inside circles, like ripples spreading from a single point. Around the edges, golden markings caught the light, reflecting it so that the disk seemed to shine from within. Thomas placed his hand on the disk. "It feels smooth, too smooth. Like glass, not stone." He looked around at the chamber. This is not only Mayan work. Something else shaped this. As they examined the platform, the chamber responded. The silver lines along the walls brightened, spreading until the entire room glowed. Their torches became weak against the light, and shadows fled from the walls. The explorers froze, their breath caught in their throats, then came the sound. A low hum rose from the floor, deep and steady like the voice of the earth itself. It grew stronger until it filled the air, vibrating in their chests. The golden markings on the disk lit up one by one, forming a perfect circle of light. Mira dropped her notebook in shock. Her voice trembled. "The temple is awake." The explorers gathered close, eyes fixed on the platform. The circles carved into it began to shift, the stone itself moving as if it were liquid. Patterns formed and changed, creating shapes of stars and moons. At last, the image settled into a map, a great wheel of constellations none of them fully knew. Ryan felt his heart race. It is a record, a message written in light. He reached out but did not touch, afraid of breaking the moment. The Mayans did not build this chamber alone. They built around something far older, something given to them. As the silver glow brightened, the walls came alive with sound. It was not words, not in any language they knew. It was like music, rising and falling, carrying meaning beyond speech. The explorers stood still, trying to listen, to understand. Each of them felt the same truth. The chamber was not only stone. It was memory. Thomas gripped his torch tightly. His voice was firm but uneasy. "This is more than we came for. If this place is a doorway, then where does it lead?" Rian's eyes stayed on the glowing map. "Not where, Thomas, to whom?" He felt the weight of the moment pressing on him. "This temple holds the sign of contact. It is proof that we are not alone." The hum slowly faded and the silver lines dimmed until only a faint glow remained. The golden disk grew still once more, its pattern silent, waiting for the next call of the moon. The explorers stood in silence, hearts pounding, their minds struggling to hold the wonder of what they had seen. Mira bent down, picking up her notebook with trembling hands. She wrote quickly, trying to capture the vision before it slipped away. "This is more than history," she said. "This is the story of humanity itself." The group left the chamber with slow steps, each one turning back for one last look. They knew the silver light would return when the moon reached its height again. For now, the temple had shown them only a part of its secret. Outside, the jungle was bright and loud, but the explorers no longer felt the same world around them. The silver chamber had changed everything. It had spoken in light and sound, in a language older than time, and it carried a promise that the story of humanity was greater than they had ever imagined. And deep in Ryan's heart, one thought grew stronger. This was only the beginning. The explorers waited for nightfall with restless hearts. The memory of the silver chamber still burned in their minds. They had seen the stone come alive with light and sound, as if the temple itself had spoken to them. Ryan sat near the fire, his eyes fixed on the glowing stairway of the temple, waiting for the moon to rise. Mira sat beside him, writing quickly in her notebook. Her hand shook as she drew the star map they had witnessed. "We must see it again," she said. The chamber did not finish its message. It was only the beginning. Tomas added more wood to the fire, his face serious. "But what if the next part is not meant for us?" He looked at the temple with wary eyes. "We might awaken something we cannot control." Ryan shook his head. His voice was calm but filled with certainty. "This temple was left for humans to find. The Mayans were chosen to guard it, and now it calls to us. If it holds danger, then it is danger tied to truth, and truth is what we came for." As the night deepened, the forest grew quiet, as if even the animals waited. Then the moon climbed into the sky, round and bright, its silver light falling on the temple. Once again the lines carved into the stone glowed, flowing down the steps like rivers of light. The explorers rose and entered the silver chamber together, their torches forgotten, for the temple itself was shining. The great disk at the center of the room began to hum. The circles shifted and the golden symbols lit one by one. The air grew heavy, charged with unseen energy. The explorers stood close, their eyes wide, their hearts beating fast. Then it happened. A beam of silver light shot down from the ceiling, striking the disk. The sound of the chamber grew louder, like the music of many voices rising at once. From the beam formed a figure, not flesh but light. It was tall, its body made of shifting silver, its face without detail yet full of presence. Mira gasped and stepped back, but Ryan held his ground. He knew this was no ghost, no trick. This was contact. The figure raised its hand and the chamber grew still. Light spread from it, forming shapes in the air, stars, planets, and lines connecting them, a moving map of the sky. The explorers watched in silence, their breaths caught. The stars spun until they showed a great path leading from far systems to Earth. The figure spoke not with words but with sound and images. Its voice was like wind and water, flowing and calm. Though no language was heard, the meaning entered their minds clearly. Long ago, travelers had come to Earth. They had found the Mayan people wise and curious, ready to learn. To them, the visitors gave knowledge of stars, of time, and of the cycles of the moon. The temple was built as a meeting place, a bridge between two worlds. The silver lines were threads of memory. The golden relics were keys to the story. Ryan felt tears in his eyes as the message filled his mind. Humanity had not been alone. They had been seen, guided, and trusted. The figure continued, showing images of the Mayans standing with the visitors, sharing light and wisdom. Then it showed the visitors leaving, their ships rising like falling stars in reverse, vanishing into the heavens. But before leaving, they promised to return when the time was right, when humanity was ready to step beyond the Earth. The image faded, and the figure lowered its hand. For a long moment it stood still, silver and silent. Then it turned toward the explorers. Though its face had no features, they felt its gaze. A single thought entered their minds, as clear as if spoken. Protect the relics. Guard the truth. Humanity is more than it believes. With that, the light dissolved and the figure was gone. The chamber grew quiet again. Only the silver glow of the walls remained, steady but soft. The explorers stood frozen, unable to move. Mira clutched her notebook to her chest, her breath quick. Thomas lowered his torch, his strong hands trembling. One of the men whispered, "We saw them. We saw the ones who came before." Ryan finally spoke, his voice low but full of fire. "This is the proof. Humanity was never alone. We are part of something greater." They left the chamber in silence, the moon still high above. Outside, the jungle looked different, less wild, almost calm. The temple stood glowing under the silver light, no longer just a ruin, but a living link to the stars. That night, the explorers could not sleep. Each time they closed their eyes, they saw the figure again, and the stars spinning across the air. They felt both small and powerful at once. Small in the face of the universe, but powerful in the knowledge that humanity had been chosen. Ryan lay awake until dawn, his thoughts burning. He knew the journey was far from over. The visitors had left a path, a promise, and now it was in their hands. The Mayan moon temple was no longer only history. It was the beginning of humanity's future. The morning after their vision, the explorers sat together in silence. None of them could speak easily, for their minds were full of the silver figure and its message. The temple was no longer only stone and history. It was a living test, and they had been chosen to face it. Rian looked at his companions one by one. Mira's eyes were sharp, though tired. Thomas's face was strong but troubled, and the two other men seemed uneasy, shifting in their seats. Ryan knew they could not turn back now. The figure had told them to protect the relics, but he felt there was more hidden inside the temple. Something waited for them, perhaps a trial left behind by the visitors. "We must return to the chamber tonight," Rian said firmly. "The temple is not finished with us," Thomas frowned. "And if the next step is dangerous," Ryan met his gaze, "then we face it together. We came here to uncover truth. That truth asks for courage." By evening, when the moon began to rise, the group entered the silver chamber again. This time they felt the air heavier, as if the temple knew they had returned with purpose. The silver lines on the walls brightened at once, spreading like veins of light. The disk in the center began to glow before they even touched it. The explorers stood close, waiting. Then the golden markings around the disk lit in sequence like a circle of fire. The stone surface shifted again, showing moving shapes. But this time there was no figure. Instead, the chamber itself spoke through patterns of light. Circles appeared on the disk, each holding a symbol. Some were Mayan, some unknown, and some looked like puzzles waiting to be solved. Mira bent forward, studying them. "It is a test," she whispered. "Knowledge, reason, unity. They are asking if we can think together." Ryan nodded. "Then we will answer." The first symbol glowed, showing an image of the moon divided into phases. Beneath it were numbers carved into stone. Mira quickly understood. It is about time. The Mayans measured the cycles of the moon. "We must place them in the right order." The group worked together. Mira guided, Thomas moved the carved stones, and the others helped arrange them. At last, the phases formed a perfect circle, new moon to full moon. The chamber answered with a bright flash of silver, and the hum grew louder. The second puzzle was harder. The disk showed stars forming strange patterns. Some were known constellations, others were foreign. A golden line pointed across them like a path. Ryan frowned, thinking deeply. "It is a journey," he said. "They want us to trace the road of the travelers." The men argued, uncertain which stars to connect. But Ryan held up his hand. "Not one of us alone. We must trust each other." With Mira's knowledge, Tomas's steady hands, and the others' sharp eyes, they traced the correct path. When the last star connected, the disk shone even brighter. The third test came quickly. The symbols formed shapes of people standing in a circle. Their arms linked. Then the light split them apart, showing each alone. The chamber dimmed as if in warning. Mira whispered, "It is not only about knowledge. It is about unity. Alone we fail. Together we rise." The explorers looked at each other, then slowly stepped onto the disk itself. They joined hands, forming a circle around the glowing patterns. At once the chamber responded. The silver lines surged with power. The hum rose into music, and the air filled with warmth. The temple had accepted them. For a moment, light wrapped around their circle like a living thread. In that glow, each of them felt the same thought enter their minds, calm and strong. Human strength is not in one, but in many. Together you hold the key. When the light faded, they stood in silence, their hands still linked. No one spoke, for words were too small. The chamber had tested them, and they had passed. Slowly, the disk lowered, revealing a hidden passage beneath it. A stairway of stone led downward into darkness, waiting for them to descend. The explorers exchanged glances. Fear was there, but also fire. Ryan spoke first. The trial was not the end. It was the door. Now the true heart of the temple lies below. Thomas took a deep breath. "Then we go." Mira closed her notebook and nodded. Step by step together. The group lit new torches and began their descent. The stairway was narrow, the air cool and still. Silver lines ran along the walls, guiding them like stars in the night. Each step carried the weight of history, but also the promise of future. When they reached the bottom, they entered a chamber unlike any before. In its center rested the largest relic they had yet seen, a golden disk taller than a man, its surface carved with patterns of both Mayan art and unknown design. It shimmered even in torchlight, as if it held the light of the moon inside it. The explorers stood in awe. They had faced the temple's test, and it had led them here. Ryan felt his voice tremble as he spoke. "This is the heart of the temple. The truth is waiting." The golden relic seemed to glow brighter, as if it had been waiting for them all along. The explorers stood before the golden disk. its surface glowing softly in the torchlight. Ryan felt a deep sense of awe. The disc was unlike anything they had ever seen. Its size was immense, its carvings precise and delicate, yet every line held power. The symbols on its surface were both Mayan and unfamiliar, as if combining two worlds. Mira stepped closer, her fingers brushing lightly over the carvings. She traced the circles and lines, her eyes widening. "These are not just symbols," she whispered. "They are instructions, a map. But not only of places. It is a map of the stars, the planets, and something more." Tomas leaned down to study the disc. "The Mayans left us this," he said slowly. "But it is more than a gift. It is a message, a responsibility," Ryan nodded. "It is a key to understanding. The visitors who came before left this for those who were ready. They trusted humanity to protect it and to learn from it." As the explorers watched, the golden disc began to glow brighter. The carving shifted, forming lines that connected to stars, planets, and other points in space. Mira realized that the disc was not only a map of the sky but a map of journeys. The golden paths led to distant systems, worlds that had been visited by the travelers long ago. "This is incredible," she said. "The Mayans recorded their visitors and they left the proof for the future. We are seeing the universe as they were shown." Ryan studied the lines carefully. The visitors wanted the Mayans to know that Earth was important. They showed them the paths to other worlds. And now it is our turn to understand. The disc pulsed as if alive. Silver light spread from the center, reflecting on the walls and ceiling. The explorers felt a vibration under their feet, gentle but certain. It was as if the temple itself approved of their presence, confirming that they had passed the trials and were worthy to see its deepest secrets. Thomas placed his hand on the disc. The golden carvings shone against his palm, and a new set of patterns appeared, showing planets and stars that were unknown to Earth. Mira gasped. "This is a star map for travelers. It is the same path the visitors took. They are showing us the way." Ryan's mind raced. He thought of the message they had received in the silver chamber. Humanity had been seen, chosen, and guided. Now they held the evidence. The golden relic was proof that Earth was part of something greater, a world connected to distant civilizations. The explorers moved around the disc, tracing the paths and symbols together. Each of them understood that this was not only history, but also a guide for the future. The Mayans had been given the knowledge, and now humanity could use it to grow beyond the boundaries of Earth. Mira pointed to one section of the disc. "These symbols," she said, "show cycles of time, positions of stars, and even predictions. The Mayans understood more than we thought, and they learned from the visitors. They left their wisdom here, waiting for humans who could understand it." Ryan nodded. "It is proof of what the visitors believed. They believed humans could rise, learn, and travel to the stars. The relic is not only a map, it is a message of trust and hope." The explorers fell silent, each of them absorbing the meaning of the moment. The golden disc was a bridge between worlds, a record of trust and a promise of a future that had yet to be written. Suddenly, the disc pulsed again, and a new vision appeared. Images of the Mayans standing with the visitors were displayed on the surface, showing how they had worked together. The visitors taught, guided, and shared knowledge, and the Mayans recorded it all. Then the vision shifted to Earth, showing the planet from space surrounded by stars. A path of light led away from Earth into distant systems. Mira gasped. "They are showing us that Earth is part of a larger journey, that we are meant to reach beyond this world." Tomas stepped back, eyes wide. "This changes everything we know. Humanity is not alone. We have been seen and prepared for something greater." Ryan placed his hands on the disc and felt warmth spread through him. He knew that they were ready for the next step, but also that this knowledge was sacred. It was a trust placed in humanity to protect and to use wisely. "We must carry this truth carefully," he said. "The golden relic is more than treasure. It is a responsibility." The explorers stood together, united in understanding. They had discovered the secret of the golden disc. They had learned that humanity was not simply part of Earth, but part of a larger story, a story that reached beyond the stars. The Mayan moon temple had not only preserved history, it had prepared humans for a future full of hope, knowledge, and the promise of discovery. As the explorers left the chamber, the golden disc's light softened but did not fade. The temple seemed calm, patient, and full of quiet pride. Ryan knew that this was not the end of their journey. It was only the beginning. The relic had spoken its truth. and humanity's story was now connected to the stars. The explorers stepped out of the deepest chamber of the Mayan moon temple, carrying with them the memory of the golden relic and the lessons it had shared. The jungle seemed quieter than before, as if it understood that something extraordinary had taken place. The silver light from the moon fell gently on the temple steps, reminding them of the vision they had seen. Rian paused at the edge of the temple, looking back at the glowing walls. He felt a mix of awe and responsibility. "This temple has given us more than we could imagine," he said. "It has shown us that humanity is capable of more than we have ever known. We are connected to the stars." Mira walked beside him, her notebook clutched tightly. She had recorded everything they had seen, the carvings, the symbols, the visions of the visitors. "The knowledge is ours now," she said. "But we must protect it. We must make sure it is never lost or misused." Thomas stood near the fire they had left behind, staring at the temple steps glowing with silver. "I never thought I would see something like this," he said quietly. "The Mayans believed in their visitors, and now we know the truth. We have been given a responsibility." The two other men nodded in agreement, their expressions serious. They felt the weight of the temple's lessons. This was not just about discovery or treasure. It was about trust, knowledge, and the future of humanity. As they prepared to leave, the temple seemed to respond to their presence. The silver lines on the walls glowed faintly, a gentle reminder that the temple was alive in its own way. Ryan felt a sense of calm. The visitor's message had been clear. Humanity was ready, but only if it acted wisely and together. The explorers walked down the temple steps carefully, the moonlight reflecting on the golden relic that still shone in their memory. Every step reminded them of the trials they had faced, the puzzles they had solved, and the lessons they had learned. They had been tested not only in knowledge but in unity, courage, and trust. When they reached the forest floor, the sounds of the jungle returned fully. Birds called to one another, leaves rustled in the wind, and insects filled the air with their quiet hum. Yet the explorers felt different. They no longer saw the jungle as a simple place of trees and paths. They saw it as part of a world connected to something much larger, a world watched and respected by beings from the stars. Rian spoke first, his voice steady and strong. "The temple is not ours to keep. It belongs to history and the universe, but what we have learned we carry in our minds and hearts. Humanity must be ready for what comes next." Mira nodded, her eyes shining. "We have proof that we are part of a larger story. We have been given knowledge that can guide us forward. We must use it carefully with wisdom and respect." Thomas added, "The relic is a symbol. It is a reminder that humans are capable of greatness. We are more than we believe, and now we know the truth." The explorers walked through the jungle together, leaving the temple behind but carrying its lessons with them. The silver light faded gradually from the walls, leaving the temple quiet and still. Yet they knew it would shine again, when the moon was right and when others were ready to learn its secrets. As they reached the edge of the forest, Ryan looked back one last time. The temple stood hidden among the trees, proud and patient. He knew that its story was now part of humanity's story. The golden relic, the visions, the star maps, all of it was a gift and a responsibility. Mira spoke softly. "We have seen the future. We have seen what humans can become." Rian nodded. "And it is up to us to share it wisely. We must show that humans can rise, that our spirit can reach the stars, and that our courage and unity will guide us forward." The group continued their journey, each step filled with purpose. They were no longer only explorers or seekers of history. They were guardians of knowledge, carriers of a truth that could change the world. The Mayan moon temple had tested them, and they had passed. They had learned that humanity's spirit was strong, capable, and ready to step into the universe. As dawn broke over the forest, silver light touched the horizon. It was not as bright as the moon, but it reminded them of what they had seen and what they must protect. The journey ahead was long, but they felt ready. Humanity's future was now in their hands, and the lessons of the temple would guide them. The explorers walked forward together, leaving the hidden temple behind but carrying its silver light in their hearts. They understood at last that the story of humanity was not only on Earth. It was among the stars, waiting to be written by those who were brave enough to rise, wise enough to protect, and united enough to face the future. And with that understanding, they stepped into the new day, ready to share the knowledge, protect the relics, and honor the trust given to them. Humanity had been chosen, and the Mayan moon temple had shown them the way.